And that was just a big understanding, because I realized sometimes I sort of felt in a way wrong, that I overthink, I think too much, and all these kind of things. And that just made me sort of stronger as a person. But then also to talk about it, I sort of plan how much time do I need for planning meetings, creative stuff. So it depends on the week, but I usually plan maybe, feel like what I felt like I'm a failure. If I talk about this, I will lose everything. It was very, really big with me, I felt like I'm the only one.
Thomas, thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you for having me.
Really, really interesting. So we never had someone like you on the podcast. You're an engineer, you have an engineering background, but today we want to talk about work and life balance, and also the topic of burnout, which seems to be not very popular on YouTube. Nobody wants to talk about it, but we have to talk about it. So welcome, and maybe give us a 1-minute introduction. Who's Thomas? What's your background? What are you working on at the moment?
Yes, Thomas Anderson. I live in Gothenburg, Sweden. I have engineering background in industrial engineering and management, like a mix between business and sort of IT part. Currently, I work sort of with change management, a lot with digital transformation, data analytics, BI, and sort of these kind of things. And I work there with sort of change and, in a way, global rollout and project management. But I also work as a coach, as a speaker, and I also then published my book, The Vulnerable Man, in Swedish 3 years ago. And I sort of myself then, there it is. I sort of myself crashed about 7 years ago now, in 2015, doing sort of similar work. And in a way, my journey, in a way, on my way there, in a way, I thought I did everything the right way, but then everything was just overwhelming. And my healing back from it, I just felt like, also, as you said, we need to talk about it. And that's also why I am very honest in my book, sharing sort of my own words from my diary over these 3 years, like the feeling of hopelessness and also the way back. Because I think we just need to, we need to talk about it as humans.
Do you feel that this topic of being a vulnerable man, like just citing this, the title of the beautiful book, everyone should get it, by the way, it's not only for men, but also for women. Do you feel that it's a bit demonized in today's society to be a vulnerable man?
Yeah, I think so. I think that was sort of my experience. Of course, we all have challenges, men and women. But I think for men, it is a bit different to be that vulnerable part. At least it was for me. I was not sort of used to talk about emotions, my feelings, and these things. And I think there is still a stigma, at least sort of when I grew up, like in teenage years, like you should sort of move on and you should hold in things. And looking back at it now, like being a teenager with a lot of emotions, it's learning to handle your emotions as a human. And I think that really hinders us today when we are in a society where we have more information and more connections and more impressions, and then we need to sort of be more aware of things that we need to face on the inside. I sometimes think of my grandparents. They maybe had a different situation, and maybe they didn't need the tools that we might need today because it's a different world. And I think that is sort of the switch. See it as evolution or development, but it's a change. And we just need to talk about things. Maybe it's like learning to ride a bike. I can say that handling my emotions, I didn't learn it as young, and I need to learn it as an adult to handle these things. And then I also need to practice as a 5-year-old, in a way, learning to ride a bike.
Yeah, I see. Would you even say that, or what was the tipping point actually where you said, okay, I can't hold my feelings in anymore. I have to write about it, or maybe let it go, let it all out?
Yeah, it was in 2015, about 7 years ago. It was just at that time I was married. I had 3 stepchildren, and I sort of had a big like doing good at work. I was like a key account manager at the management consultant firm, working then also with sort of BI and analytics. And it was just like a hopelessness. It didn't matter what I did. I was so tired. And then I felt like it doesn't matter what I do. Like there's nothing more I can do, and it's not enough. Fixing for at home, being there for my wife at the time, being there for the kids, being there at work, and it was just, there was no stop. And that's sort of how, that's like, what can I do? Like, and that sort of hopelessness and sort of depression, and like, should I like even stay on this earth, having that sort of suicidal thoughts. And in a way, I knew I would not sort of take my own life, but I was sort of still there in those thoughts. And that's like, there's something I need to do here. And then I talked to one friend, and he sort of, you need to do something, and like, you're playing a lot of roles. And I talked to another friend, like, helped me a bit to get distance on my work. Like, you need to start saying no. So with these like small things, but also a very deep feeling within that I need to change. Like, this is, and then that was at a starting process. And then I was able to create some space for myself. And I also sort of decided I need to do sort of more workout, like go out, go to the gym and these things. And I sort of said 3 times a week, I'm going to the gym. It was like my body needs to sort of feel well. And then in a way, I felt like I need to take care of my body first, and then I also need to take care of the mental part. But I started with sort of creating space just for me. And then like 6 months later, I got in touch with sort of like a therapist and went into more of those parts.
It feels kind of counterintuitive, right? When we think we have to work out to feel better, it's kind of you're draining yourself in the gym, but then the feeling afterwards is actually great and gives you more energy. It's kind of a bit of a counterintuitive thing.
Yeah. No, and I think that is like a switch as well. That if you sort of go to the human brain and what sort of our normal patterns, if you go with humans, we should actually rest when we are not working, because we should be prepared for hunting or protecting ourselves. Like, that's a normal pattern. Your body says, okay, I'm tired, you should rest, because you should be able to move physically. But today, at least for me and many of us working, just sitting by maybe the computer full day, and then we feel tired, and it's like, I need to rest. But maybe it's the opposite. If you've been sitting down the whole day, maybe resting is actually moving around. Also, then going back to my grandparents, my grandfather was a farmer, lumberjack, and all these things. Of course, when he got home, he needed to rest because he's been out working all day. And these mental things, or sort of the workout, it's for me, I'm doing my workout for our mental health. Because when I do my walks, I do like have my routines every day, and usually after work, I go for a walk. I call it my after work walk. It's a difficult word to say, but still. Because then I just sort of relax and sort of let the day rinse off and sort of get perspective to things. And it helps me to balance the things I've gone through in the day. Because I know I've been sitting all day. I'm not physically tired, even if I feel tired. And it's just sort of to have that routine to say, it's okay to be tired. I can just go for a walk anyways. And maybe the first 15 minutes, like, but then you get into it and these kind of changes. And I think that's the switch, since we have it in a way easy today. We need to sort of get these routines. I sometimes compare it to like if you brush your teeth. You do that, but you don't see the caries in your mouth, or you just do it because otherwise your teeth will rot or whatever. And you probably wash your hands, especially after COVID. We know to wash your hands. But maybe we also need to cleanse our body from all the impressions during a day. That maybe just walking in silence, without music, without interactions for your brain is something we need as well. It's just a different perspective that we have not been talking about before. We didn't need to talk about it. But today, with a connection, it triggers out us in a different way.
Yeah, that brings us to the point of actually feeling overwhelmed with all the plethora of information that's bombarding us every day. But thinking about building a habit, actually, so you going out after work, doing your after work walk, it's actually a tongue twister now that I say it, is how did you develop that habit? Was it just, are you forcing yourself the first, let's say, 30 days for 30 minutes to actually make it a habit? Or what did you do to actually do it at the end?
I think it came in a way in steps. I think when I sort of in 2015, I think like before I did a lot of workout, but then I sort of prioritized it. I didn't prioritize it. I thought I need to fix this at work or my family and things like that. But then I sort of, okay, I need to do this at least 3 times a day. And there's also studies on that. Like if you do exercise 45 minutes 3 times a week, it's actually helping you to it's better than taking medicine or in sort of supporting as well. So I think that's sort of started to help me. But then it's been quite normal for me going to maybe different kind of offices when I've been working. I maybe skip the tram, or I live in Gothenburg, so we take the tram, and I walk for maybe 15 or 20 minutes. It's been quite a normal part of my work. Or sort of like, I usually try to, if I go to work somewhere, I sort of add that kind of walk to sort of get that space that's been there. But then when sort of COVID hit and I realized, well, I'm going to work from home the whole time, then I just felt like I need to have some routines, because I'm going to work at home. I will not have that normal transition time between work and home, because otherwise you probably, you go up, you get ready, you go out, maybe it's going by subway or going by tram or whatever, but at least you start moving and you have that maybe 20, 30, 45 minutes of transportation time. And maybe that's also needed to get that space. So these things just, it just like I need to do something, start and end of day. And then it's just then became into that kind of routine. And it's, I think, and also I saw the positive things of it. That I can, because I'm that person, you want to go into different things and you can sort of, you want to fix and you want to be everywhere, and it's hard to stop. But then also knowing that it is hard to stop, because I'm that personality as well. I like to be everywhere. I like to be connected. I'm that sort of person. But then it's like, okay, but how can I help myself to have that transition time? And then it's sort of, okay, I need to do this. And then the more I just walked, it's sort of helped me. And of course, sometimes I do different kind of exercise. I go to the gym, but you can always go for a walk. And I think that is sort of the rule. Actually, I remember we had a speaking event on this. I went to a digital nomad thing this last beginning of the year. And I had this presentation, and it was this guy, he worked a lot with sort of Bitcoin and these kind of things he was really into. And I said that, like, I'm so tired that I need to go for a walk. That's sort of my perspective. And he's like, yeah, well, I'll join you, he said. And then, I think it was a few days later, and he sort of got back to me and he said, hey, I've been taking that walk and I feel so much energy. Because otherwise, when he was tired, it's like YouTubing or like whatever he did. But he's like, yeah, I had so much energy. I actually called my mom just for fun, and my sister, and he sort of had a different energy. And it was just so fun to see in him just doing these small things. And I think sometimes that's like, to keep it simple. It's not like, oh, I need to go for the gym, I need to do hard workouts, or sort of push yourself for these things. Like, make it simple. Go for a walk, go in nature, like switch off things and see it as helping yourself and not pushing yourself.
I love that, Thomas, because we are being taught that the brain kind of works in a linear way, although I feel that the brain chemistry is very non-linear, very chaotic. And some people think, well, it can't be that easy, because people say do X, then Y happens. People be like, no, I'd rather pay like 1,000 euros for a program or something like that. Then it might work. Yeah. But actually, small things that change your life so dramatically, as you just described it, Thomas, is I think very, very good. And what else did you do, by the way, just to get out of that burnout zone, or like the bad zone? Let's put it that way.
Yeah, of course, one thing was, of course, therapy. And I got in, well, at that time also talked about something being a highly sensitive person, meaning that you, like all of us, of course, feel things. And then like some of us, like 15 to 20% can sort of sense more things. And it's more that you have a more nervous system that just take in more information. It's like you just process more information. If someone processes 10 things, you process 100 things. So it's just that we are different. And for me, like being a planner, product manager, and I just want to make sure everyone is doing okay. So that's sort of me. And that was just a big understanding, because I realized sometimes I sort of felt in a way wrong, that I overthink, I think too much, and all these kind of things. And that just made me sort of stronger as a person. But then also to talk about it, like being quite open with how I feel and think, because I sort of judged myself a lot of, I think wrong, I feel wrong. And I remember in that sort of first therapy session, like there's nothing wrong, like no right, no wrong with how you feel or think. It just is. So then me accepting these things and putting my sort of words out there helped me to heal and get in perspective on myself. Because one key thing in this was, in a way, and after this was sort of my emotional management, to sort of process my emotions and feelings. And especially today when we're sort of also overwhelmed, I think that is one key thing, that I don't sort of take all emotions as mine. Like I feel something, I feel sadness, I feel anger. I'll sort of put it out in my hand and it's like, I feel anger. I'm not angry. What is this anger about? What can I do about it? Is it me? Maybe I'm sensing someone else around me. So that was one thing. And also to like reprogram myself, because if we go to, so maybe if we talk IT language or computer language, it's like if you feel something, you sense something, you go into your normal pattern. Like I feel this, I should react like this because someone is angry with me or did something wrong to me, and you sort of take that personally, or you have a reaction that maybe doesn't really meet the situation, that you can, overreact, for example. So sometimes I sort of felt things, okay, I feel this, but it doesn't really add up to actually what happened. Then I was like, this feeling is not correct. And I need to sort of reprogram myself. So then I sort of went back, okay, my normal reaction to this is like this happens, I react like this based on something. And then you start to sort of backtrack maybe something that has been unmet in you, like some emotions, maybe a lot from when you were young and things like that. And then I learned to meet those or face those things that I maybe did not face as a child. And then I can heal all these things that actually did not work today, because I've been programmed during this age. So setting my routines, process emotions daily, but also in a way reprogram myself. Because that is, in a way, was the reason for my burnout, was that I was afraid of facing different things based on my old memories.
I see. One question that I had, I'm not sure who the quote is from. I think Jim Carrey, who said, like, whenever we go out into the world, like we put all our like masks on, we pretend to be happy, we pretend to be this, pretend to be that. Is that at the end of the day, we put that mask away and then we are ourselves. I wonder if you reprogram yourself, isn't that putting a mask on it to some extent? And then in a few years, it might revenge itself, because when you should be angry, however we define angry at the moment, you should be angry at that moment, but you hold yourself back to be angry, and maybe it builds up in your body. How do you make sure that it's not happening?
It's recognizing the emotion that you feel anger, and then you can say, why are you angry? What happened? Did you go against yourself? Did anyone do anything wrong to you? Should you set your boundaries? And what sort of triggered that emotion? And you sort of learn the patterns, because anger you can see sometimes as a feeling that you want to, like someone did something bad to you, you want to break free or something. So then you can see, like if someone just said something and you maybe take it like as, oh, I'm angry with you, for example, but maybe they just said, could you just please fix this problem in the project here? Can you take responsibility for that? You can feel, why are they putting all these things at me? But then you can sort of distance yourself. Okay, then I'm angry that I'm putting things on me. Is it because I have too much on my plate? Is it because I didn't say no? And then you can sort of backtrack. Why do you have this emotion? And then if you feel that you overreact, you can see, okay, maybe is it an emotion from before? Maybe I've been pushing myself for a long time. Maybe it's been like what I did. I didn't sort of, as you say, like I didn't I pushed down my needs. I didn't listen to myself for a long time. That's why I got burned out. Oh, maybe I'm backtracking now to a different perspective, but it's well, so it could be that maybe you're mad for something that happened when you were 12 or 13, and that's sort of,
but I see where you're coming
if
from.
you then face that memory of when you were 13 or 5, you can like release that emotion, and then you don't need to be triggered by that, because it's not true anymore. I can take an example, because it was like one thing that happened when I was 13. Something happened, like I moved from a small school to a bigger school, and it was like a different kind of energy.
I see what you mean.
something happens, and I was like a bit bullied by a few kids, and that sort of followed me for a few years at that time. So I could feel what I sort of felt afraid many times, like if I say something or if I put out my needs, it will be a problem for many years. That was sort of my fear. Like if I sort of do this or I do something wrong, that will follow me. But then when I saw this emotion, I said, okay, I'm still afraid of these teenage boys 25 years later or 30 years later. And then I say, okay, I don't want to be afraid of these teenage boys anymore, because my reaction in today was still based on those kids from that time. And that was, of course, heavy to face that emotion from that 30-year-old Thomas.
I see.
But when I faced it, I just sort of, in a way, I got help, and I helped my way through that emotion. I reprogrammed myself and say, I don't need to be afraid of that anymore. So I released that, which means that I can handle situations right now in a different situation. Because then I'm acting from my adult Thomas without the mask. Yeah.
I see. Now I get it. Yeah. Would you also say that this, especially like reprogramming yourself and also listening to your own self and not self-sacrificing too much, made you a better partner, better engineer in your work, but also in your personal life? How does it affect your day-to-day life?
I feel much calmer, more secure in myself. I set my boundaries. I have deeper relationships since I can be more secure. I'm also with the people that like me for who I am. I also am much sort of calmer in work. I have more trust in what I do.
Yeah.
Since I also work a lot with sort of people change, I think before I didn't really understand what I did sometimes, but I can sort of see this sort of interpersonal skills in a different perspective. So I think it sort of made me more human, because all I feel is it's being human. But what happened was it was just too much information. I think sometimes we are, in a way, we're so overwhelmed with all this information, all these instant kicks or instant responses. But you can also see it as a drug, like you're getting these kicks that are built in. So in a way, detoxing from all these overwhelming things. So many things, like calmer, happier, more faith in myself. Also seeing more good in others. And yeah, there's many different perspectives, I would say.
Really nice. How did you identify that you were a highly sensitive person? I think in the book you describe it or abbreviated as HSP.
Yeah.
What are the traits of highly sensitive people? Because what's funny, and I have to show the book again, by the way,
Yeah.
in case you didn't see it yet. It feels like when I read through the book, Thomas, I really have to say it felt like I was writing my own diary, to be honest, like almost like maybe 95%. So I can really relate with you. How do you define a highly sensitive person? Because I can relate, obviously, but maybe to the listeners, what is a
Well, I think
HSP?
it's that you have sort of a more sensitive nervous system, that you take in more information. I think it's another abbreviation. It's sensory processing sensitivity, that you're more open to things, that you sort of take in more information. It could be that you're more open to details, or you're more open to sensing how other people feel, or it could be sounds. But there is an abbreviation, it's called DOES, DOES, and it is for this sort of deep processing. And you just see it as a sort of computer or whatever, like you just process more information, meaning that you have that deep processing possibility. And then the O stands for, but the problem is that you can be overstimulated. And that was sort of so obvious to me that being a group, I thought of, okay, I need to think about that person needs to talk, how is that person feeling? And I sort of sensed everything like that. So you can be overstimulated, and that's sort of when your head spins. And it could also be then maybe you search for information, you're researching something from an engineering perspective, you're doing report, and there's like, you're in there and you find new information, and then, you need to go in there, and you go in there because it's so like your brain is like that, and you just felt too much. And then it can just be too much, and you just black out, like it's just overwhelming. And the E also stands for empathy, like you can be more open to how people feel, and you can sense more those things. And the S stands for these subtle things. So it's just like all of us feel this, but they say it's researched by Elaine Aron, and they talk about like 15 to 20% of the population is highly sensitive. So it's sometimes I feel like the word also sensitive is sensitive to talk about, but see it as just that you process more data. And then for me, then these routines that I have is helping me, because it's easy for me to be overwhelmed, because I also want to be everywhere. So like having routines in the morning and the afternoon helps me to de-stress in this environment when we are so overstimulated all the time. There's like always that candy shop or your Instagram or whatever you want to go into.
Definitely. How to maybe give us like a before and after Thomas? So let's maybe start in the morning. The before Thomas would be like, I'm waking up, I have to check my emails, work is waiting for me. Maybe there's something else that's going on, I have to pay bills, whatever. And now the now Thomas, how does he look like? How does he start the day?
Well, today, I go for like a workout every morning. So I do sort of a morning routine. So usually it's like a workout or maybe a walk or go swimming. So that's sort of 6:30. I do that every morning. And then I, of course, like all notifications and all these things on my phone are turned off. I don't have all social media on my phone because I want to choose when I want to go in there. I think before when I got emails, we got that notification on emails, you checked it directly and you sort of wanted to answer instantly. But now it's like, okay, I can answer when I've thought about it. So I think I'm more calm in responses. Also, like in lunchtime, I maybe take a lunch, but also go out if possible. Like now I work from home, but you go out for maybe 15, 20 minutes, try to sort of be outside, do something else to get away from things. And I have my then afternoon walk, of course, after work walk. I need to find a better word for that one. But I think I'm more calm in many ways in that perspective. Of course, I do my work and all these things. But I don't, for example, like before, I maybe check my emails before bed, like just these things. Which then stressed me, because then I maybe in the night thought about the answers. How should I respond to this in the morning? And then I slept bad. So for example, I have my phone, I put it on sleep mode, like automatically at 8 o'clock. So no one can reach me except sort of emergency numbers. So I think many things like that, like helping myself to de-stress. And I think on many things, also like news, for example. I don't watch news. I read news, but I don't watch them because I think they want to create a reaction within you, and that's sort of their purpose. So maybe I read instead because that's better for me. So I think it's many small things, and I think also I know when I'm doing sort of like if I do changes, if I do maybe a new job or a new assignment, I know that okay, I'm gonna push myself into something new. Then I also plan for extra time for recovery. Like if I know I'm doing a new assignment, okay, let's plan for extra hikes, or what do I need during this time?
Very interesting. Really cool. I was really thinking about how do you limit your own bandwidth? Like, you talked about your phone usage. How is it with other things? Let's say, especially for the engineering audience listening right now, maybe also scientists, people from academia. How do you become more focused? Do you follow special systems? Do you have something like, I don't know, a special matrix where you put all your tasks in, very important, not important, might delegate? How do you do that? Or do you think systems are overrated? Do you just go by feeling?
I think it's a mix. Of course, I think maybe you have so many things with you for a long time, but I try to listen a lot to when I'm focused. For example, I know like my morning times before lunch. That's when I'm very efficient. So that's when maybe I plan tasks that needs to be focused on. So I have that before, and maybe I plan more meetings in the afternoon, for example. So those things I try to plan like that.
What about meetings? Do you have something like a meeting-free Friday, or is it that you?
Oh yeah. No, yeah, that's a good thing. That's a good thing. I give myself, I plan space in my time, like work. For example, if people book many meetings with me, I sort of plan how much time do I need for planning meetings, creative stuff. So it depends on the week, but I usually plan maybe, 2 hours every second day. So maybe 6 hours a week. I block them for me.
Yeah.
So no one can sort of take it for meetings. And I try to have like maybe sometimes also 4 hours that I block, because maybe I know I need to be creative. So I make sure people don't shop my time, because I can feel like if it's 30 minutes meetings in between, I don't get into that sort of creative if I need to create things, because I feel that if I start creative stuff, it takes maybe 15 minutes just to sort of get into it. But then I can be in the flow for a few hours. But then if I need to go to a meeting, I need to restart. So I've listened a lot to what I need based on my work schedule, but then I sort of plan what I need to make sure that I fulfill my work. So if I know, okay, I have this presentation in 3 weeks, how much time do I need to prepare? Okay, I need 8 hours, 16 hours. Then I block time. So I plan those things. So it's a lot of time management like that. I think that's sort of some of the things.
Yeah. Do you use a lot of apps for that, or like really, as I said, do you go by feeling? Because as we see, many YouTubers in the personal development / time management space, they have systems where sometimes I watch videos, I'm like, really, like 15 apps to manage your day-to-day life. Is it really necessary? Then you actually create more drama, more stress in your life than you actually solve. Do you use any specific apps? Maybe have a to-do list or not to-do list?
Well,
Something like
sometimes it depends on the week, but sometimes I do, like, as I say, like a planning of like what I need to do. So it could be maybe like maybe sometimes end of the week or beginning of the week, you sort of plan what is most important for me, and then I use sometimes just a pen and paper,
Yeah.
or you can use your phone, but like plan what's most important for you. And I think I use that, because then it's like that time to reflect. Because sometimes it could be that you want that perfect app to solve your problems. You want that magic button to plan for you. But then also it could be that sort of emotion or something else that actually stresses you, why you need that app. You want someone to help you, but maybe it's more making it more easy.
I see. Maybe that's, yeah,
Maybe
exactly. I
time.
feel it's like looking for the
Sorry.
magic pill, as if you go to the gym. Let me just take that pill and I'll have the six pack,
Yeah.
rather than saying I have to invest the work or actually do the work to get the results. It's a bit weird.
Yeah. I think maybe one important thing that I think also helped me in the beginning, like, was time to reflect. Like I did, of course, write my diary, but giving you space just to think, what happened this week? Because one key thing when you do changes, like start and go for a workout or different things, in a way you are changing behavior, you're changing patterns, and humans are by default lazy. You want to keep in your same path because you want to save energy. So then you're trying to create new neurons, or whatever we'll call it in the brain, but new tracks. And also be kind to yourself. Okay, I'm doing something new, I'm learning. Then you can reflect, okay, what happened this week? Oh, I didn't feel good this morning walking up. Oh yeah, okay, note it down, but it felt good afterwards. Yes, okay, good. And then you can reflect on your week, or how did work schedule go? What happened? Okay, this happened. Okay, how can I do this better next week? How can I learn? And I think that putting that effort also into learning instead of blaming yourself. Sometimes, I don't know, for at least at me, like, oh, I should know everything from the beginning. I should be the expert. I should do it perfectly directly from start. If I decide to go to the gym 3 times a week and I fail, it's a disaster. I should quit. But then it's like, okay, I'm going to go 3 times a week. It was only 2, but actually I went 2 times. Oh, it's good. What happened? Okay, well, I'm learning. And then you can sort of help yourself. And then, because we all are humans, we all have our histories from different perspectives. And maybe we have different things in our backpack that maybe hinders us from doing changes, but also we can change. But help yourself on that way and take on challenges that are good for you and that are on the right step. And then step by step you learn. So reflect, change, learn, and be kind to yourself.
Really good. Definitely something I need to do more for sure, because sometimes we punish ourselves. Like we are our own biggest critics, so we judge ourselves way too hard sometimes. I like that you said at the end, be kind. Do you feel like, especially because you're a highly sensitive person, like you understand that people go through a lot of struggles? For example, if someone is mean to you, they want to get an emotional reaction from you, that you feel, yeah, I've been at that place. Maybe that person that is trying to insult me is also the dark place. I feel for you. I empathize with you. Do you feel you understand people even better? Have that emotional intelligence, Thomas? Would you say that you sense that more?
Because you
other
can
people?
really relate to that stress or where you're at. You can really understand, because like when I'm feeling right now, like I know how I felt 7 years ago, and I think that's also when you sort of need to be kind to yourself, because like every step is hard. It's easy for me to say, oh, just do this and this, but it's like it being in first grade at uni, like, oh, this is so simple if you're a professor and be working with it for 20 years. But of course, if you're in first grade at uni, like, okay, this is a normal challenge because it's planned for that. So it's important to have that emotional intelligence, because I could be the professor and say, you should be able to do this from first grade. I've known it for 20 years, but then you have to, okay, I was also there. And then you also connect, and we're humans. I understand that these were also my challenges at that time. So I can help you through it. You need to walk on your own. You need to do the work yourself. But I understand, I've been there. Like the first times I sort of spoke and was open, I was deadly scared. And just facing things and being like sensing things, like crying or just being open with different things. It's been so hard. I felt I would fail, I would die, because it was so pushed down. But learning it's also a process. Okay, then now I sort of process things very, very differently, since I'm more connected. Before I could sort of think, oh, that person was mad at me or angry with me, and I could have thought about it for many days or weeks. But now I sort of process, or maybe, as you said, okay, maybe he or her is in that situation right now. Okay, so it's not about me, it's about them. And then I can sort of let it go. I let the emotion go. And then I can instead be more sort of practical and say, okay, how can I help that person? Or is that person maybe helping themselves already? So then I sort of take away that emotion as well and can be sort of more practical to the response, and not sort of make it personal.
Yeah, see. When we talk about the dark area you've been in, like when we talk about suicidal thoughts, for example, it's very common. Also, like during engineering studies, I had friends, colleagues who were afraid to talk about it. Where should you seek help? Should you just look for any therapist? How would you approach the problem? Like, do you feel people should immediately seek help if they feel like this kind of suicidal thoughts or maybe even signs of burnout? What would you recommend to them?
Yeah, I try to seek help in different perspectives. Talk to your close ones, and people that you trust. Like, start somewhere, and it, of course, it depends on where you are. It could be that you start out with maybe someone you trust, a family member or a friend, and maybe you can start talking about and just checking, like, if we can talk, like, hey, can we talk about something that is really hard for me, but I need someone to share with. Can we talk about this? Or reach out to someone, a professional, a therapist, which is available in your at the university or at work or at different things. So try to reach out, because whatever you feel, it's normal. We are humans. We sense things. It could just be that we are overwhelmed, and is help out there. So I think that is yeah.
Got it. We'll leave it at that. Very good
No,
tips. Thank you so much, Thomas.
No, it's important.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. But it also really, as you said, it's really on an individual level you have to decide. But definitely seek help is kind of the tagline, to always seek help and not be too afraid to be vulnerable.
No, exactly. I think also when you are there, it feels you could feel like what I felt like I'm a failure. If I talk about this, I will lose everything. It was very really big with me, I felt like I'm the only one thinking like this.
Exactly. Yes.
I'm the only one. But if you seek help to talk to someone, and then you see, okay, they thought about similar things, and you're not the only one. I remember actually being to one of sort of these retreats I went to with different kind of yoga, and I actually, like, I just wanted to ask that question, like, have everyone else thought about suicide? And like everyone, yeah. So it was like it's maybe that you never thought of actually taking through, but you've been there. So it's just sort of also a signal that maybe you're pushing away your needs in a way. This got not good. And also sometimes you can sort of look on the other side. If someone actually does that, you always ask, why didn't they talk? Why didn't they reach out?
Yeah.
But also understand the struggle, that it could feel really, really hard. But there is help there, and people have gone through this before, and especially professionals, they help you through this, and they have talked about it before, and they know how to help you.
Yeah.
So take that help.
Yeah. Would you even say, maybe that's like a weird question, but do you think that people in technical fields feel more that because of this kind of, imposter syndrome, when we talk about imposter syndrome, that this is even more of a pressure? Because when you're an engineer, you should know everything from thermodynamics up to advanced mathematics and solving PDEs. Do you think that's even more pressure, like when you're an engineer, scientist, where there's more social pressure on you?
That's a good question. I guess it's of course in different kind of fields.
Mm-hmm.
But I think one thing I've seen, like it's talking maybe from an engineering perspective, is that you want to fix it. You are a problem solver. You want to be there. So sort of you are already interested in solving problems. So it could be that you want to continue.
Yeah.
And now, since there's like no stop, you can just continue to search, because it's also something that you're interested in. And I think that's maybe the thing there. What is work? What is fun?
Yeah.
It just like I usually, a lot of sort of things compared to my grandparents. How would they do? Like, okay, the library is shut. You need to go home. There is no internet. There is no other things. Actually, there is a normal stop, which we need. But now maybe it's that sort of mix of interest and social interactions and finding information. You want to be part of different things. So I think it could be in that field. And you can also like be in your sort of focus, or you're zooming in on something. So I think it could be so.
Yeah. Hopefully last question from my side is, do you feel, Thomas, that you needed to be at a dark place to appreciate happiness? Because I feel, from my logic, is that you always have to put in the work to get something out. So I feel people who trying very hard to search for happiness never find it, because they're trying so hard, instead of actually being in a dark place, then appreciating happiness, if you kind of get what I mean. So that you have to first see unhappiness to appreciate happiness. Is that something you have been through, and would you agree to that?
Yeah, I could. Well, I'm grateful for the journey I've done. Of course, it's been really, really hard, but I'm more calm. And I think also maybe happiness has a different perspective for me now. I think before, happiness was to have a certain job, making sure that the facade was like I had a wife, I had kids, I had these things that I should have. So maybe running for happiness was a picture built up by society or others. But I would say now I find the happiness that is really for me. It's a different kind of happiness, if it makes sense. So as you say, I think I needed to go through these things because I also appreciate smaller things, maybe a different way. I'm more grateful for things. For example, I've been in pain for a long time, going through a lot of things, and just the feeling of not being in pain.
That's wonderful.
That's wonderful feeling, and being able to go out for walks, being out to be out in nature, and to be able to do these things. It's a happiness that's different. Of course, it's hard for me to know if you already know this before. Do you need to go through the darkness? I don't know. But also, I guess it's experience life, going through life's journey, you will experience loss and happiness. But if you stay on a middle path and you don't want to experience sadness, you might not find happiness, because like you will go through relationships, you will also learn on the road, like maybe new work or new assignments and new things. Some things will fail, and then you will feel that sadness, and you learn from the sadness, and you can do something else. I don't know if that makes sense, that response, but it's my perspective.
I get what you mean. People who can relate definitely get what you mean. So I really, really appreciate you being that open, Thomas, and I really have to thank you for your book. Any closing remarks? So if you would be in my shoes, being the podcast, is there something I didn't ask you that you would have asked yourself?
Yeah, no.
I think we've gone through a lot of topics.
Yeah,
But maybe we missed
I
something
think
very
maybe
crucial.
one of the key things I talk about in my speaking events a lot is that also that to understand that we are standing in a big change for humans. Like this digital connected world, it's very new. It's been here for, like, just imagine the iPhone has been here for just 15 years. In 2007 when they sort of launched it, and I think in Sweden in 2010 only 20% had a smartphone, and 5 years later it was up to 80%. And looking at humans for about 200,000 years, it's quite a new thing. So if you feel overwhelmed, if you feel strange, and it's what the X happened, it's not strange. We are in a phase that is changing, and we as humans have not been built for this change that we are in. So I think that is also being kind to yourself, that we are, I believe as humans, we are standing in a big change in evolution, that we need to sort of learn these things that was not needed 20 years ago. And I think that is the key message, because sometimes I felt like I should know this, I should be efficient, I should know this. But how could we have known that this world that we are standing in right now was possible before? And it's new. And I think that is the key thing. Yeah.
Definitely. And I would like to end, again, holding the book up with one sentence from your book, which will be the closing sentence for this podcast. So I would like to thank you, Thomas. Maybe there will be a second part in the future, and hope to invite you in future speaking events, maybe for engineers who maybe are more vulnerable in the future. So one sentence: being vulnerable is about being honest with ourselves and our history, about sharing how we feel and what we think, and about sharing our journey as human beings. Because no matter how alone we might feel when things are tough, we are more similar than we think. Thanks, Thomas.
Thank you so much for having me.